Hello, my name is Myra. Welcome back to another video. Now, I know it's pretty late into the month of May to be talking about the books that I read in April, and I wish I could have filmed this a long time ago, but to be honest, I am finally in the headspace where I feel like I'm back. Okay, and I feel like I need to give a little bit of context. Well, I don't need to, but I just kind of want to, just to kind of share that sometimes you're going through things and it feels like there's no way out and you're not going to be able to do it, and you push through, you know, and eventually it might take a little bit, but everything works out in the end. So at the beginning of April, very excited. I had filmed some videos in March and I was going to get ready to edit them and everything. But the first thing that we were going to do is go on a trip, just me and my boyfriend, up to San Francisco to just spend a romantic weekend together. During that weekend, he actually went from my boyfriend to my fiance, which was very exciting. I love him very much. He is 100% the love of my life. And obviously being engaged was very exciting for us both. And unfortunately, on the way back, my car, because we did drive up north, my car started acting up. And that whole next week, my car was either at the dealership or at the mechanic, and they were going to take a look at it to see what was wrong with it. I was starting to get quotes, which were coming out to roughly like $1,400, and it's $1,400 is a lot. Maybe to some people it isn't, but when it's an unexpected expense, it's a lot. And so that was rough, but I was like, well, hopefully it's not, hopefully it'll be less. And you know, hopefully that's all it is, because my car was bad. Okay, it was rough. That Saturday, after that whole week of my car, basically me being carless, Friday evening, I end up finding out that I'm going to basically have to sell my car and get a new car. And the reason for that being is that it needed the whole engine to be replaced, and because my car was older, the value of the car wasn't going to compensate for the amount for it to fix. It was basically going to cost more to fix it than the actual value of the car. So that weekend was also my fiance's birthday party. And so that Saturday, immediately the day after I found out that I had to get a new car, we already had this whole planned barbecue and everything. And so we did that. And you know, the weekend before that, it was Easter weekend, so everybody was really excited about us being engaged. We had, you know, told everybody, and then people that we hadn't seen yet, we saw them at his birthday party. So people were really excited, really happy, and I was extremely happy. I still am extremely happy, but in the back of my mind, I'm over here just thinking like, you don't have a car. Because I couldn't, my car was not drivable. It wasn't safe to drive it. And actually it was gonna be even worse if I drove it, because then if eventually my car just fully stopped working, I was probably not gonna be able to sell it at all. So the next week after that, I basically had to get quotes for my car, see where I can get the most amount of money, how to make appointments to go that following Saturday. Because again, I work at an office, I work full time, and I didn't wanna miss work because of my car. And I am so lucky that I have my mom, my stepdad, and my fiance who were able to take me to and from work. Without their help, I mean, shout out to you guys, I would have been screwed, honestly, because it turns out I had to take a Uber one day to work, just to go to work, $40. Mind you, I'm like half an hour from my work. $40. I was like, imagine if I would have had to do this whole time. Like, it's crazy. Anyway, finally end up selling my car. That same day that I sell my car, I went to go test drive the current car that I have now, except the car that I test drove is not this one, because I went, test drove it, liked it, said, hey, get me some quotes. The sales rep was honestly lazy, was not getting back to me with quotes. I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? Finally, someone else at that dealership ends up telling me, hey, you know, we actually sold that car. We don't have another car coming in for a few weeks. Yeah. So then I was like, okay, let me check with other dealerships, because this is extremely poor customer service. As someone that has worked customer service, I'm like, dude, and as someone that has done sales, I'm like, you want to sell. Like, if he would have just gotten me the quotes that weekend that I sold my other car and I was ready to just sign on a new car, I would have taken it from him. He would have gotten his commission and it would have been great. But it was just lazy sales on his part. Anyway, I'm going back and forth with all these dealerships. At this point now, it's been 3 weeks that I've been carless, okay? I couldn't even go to the grocery store because I wasn't gonna tell, you know, my stepdad, hey, you know, on the way of you dropping me off at home, can you also stop with me at the grocery store because I need to go pick up some things? Like, no. So then I had to be waiting for my fiance to come home from, you know, his work or stuff like that, and to then go to the store. And I basically had no way to get around, and it was driving me crazy. I am someone that is very independent. I work hard for my money, but I also am like very independent. I'm not used to having to be driven around, and it was a lot. Finally, at the end of the month, again, after being carless for basically 3 weeks, I finally had a car, or I got a car. I did end up going with a new car just because in between all that time, there was a friend of like my mom's who sells used cars, let me borrow a car to test it out, had a mechanic take a look at it that is like a family friend, and he was like, I don't recommend it. And so I was like, crap, okay, then you know what? And once he like checked it out and was like, I don't recommend it, I kind of was like, okay, I know I don't want a car payment, but would I rather just have a car payment and have a new car that is reliable, or would I rather risk it with a used car that in a month or so from now might give me problems? After having been going through all of this for the past 3 weeks with my old car, I was like, no, I'm gonna go the new car route. So thankfully everything worked out. I got a really good deal with my car considering the economy and everything. Oh my God, I got a really good deal with my car. So thankfully that got fixed. But after going through all of that, I just needed time to like not think and not have to like do anything, because every single weekend we were running around looking at cars, getting quotes, getting this, and it was a lot. It really was, on top of like just our regular things that we already had planned for that month, which were also interfering with how much time I really had to take a look at cars. So it was crazy, and I need to stop talking because it's been like 8 minutes, but I just wanted to explain that sometimes it's stressful and things are happening, and there's a really good thing that happens and then a really bad thing that happens. But you know what? Now that that was taken care of, I'm like, the relief that I feel, insane. Okay, because I could not see the light at the end of the tunnel. Let me just tell you that. But with that said, obviously, because I didn't really have a car, I wasn't really able to listen to audiobooks. And audiobooks is a big way that I actually get through more books throughout the month, because I listen to them on my commute to and from work. And I wasn't gonna have my headphones on as like my stepdad or my mom or my fiance are driving me to and from work. Like, that's really rude. So I didn't really listen to books. And to be honest, even on like the times that I had time to read a physical book, mentally I was just checked out. So in total for the month of April, I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books. One of them was a rollover from March, and then one of them was a novella, and the other one, I guess the other one kind of counts as a novella, which is really the only reason why I read as many as I did. And then 2 of them were for book club, which for my 2 different book clubs, so it's kind of mandatory reading, you know, so I had to get through it. And one of them was for fun. It was an anticipated book, and I needed a good book. I needed a book that I really wanted to just get into. But anyway, I've rambled on long enough, so let's go ahead and talk about the books that I actually did read in April. Starting off with my rolled over book from March, and that was Cleopatra by Sarah L. Al-Rifi, and I really hope that I'm saying the author's name. I'm so sorry if I'm not, but this was my first book by this author, and I really enjoyed it. This is a historical fiction, so it's not really a book that I read because I am very heavy into reading romance. But I do want to venture out into other genres, and reading this book was actually really interesting to me because of the way that it was told. I did listen to the audiobook, which I would highly recommend, but this is basically a journey through Cleopatra's story, and she's the one telling you the story. So there were moments in the book, especially again in the audiobook, where she's saying, but listen, I'll get to that now. In the meantime, let me just get to this part of the story. And like, she's telling you her story, but it's still, you know, like a book. Like, it's still like they're talking. It's not like she's narrating it to you, but then there are little parts in there where she says, and I should have known that this is how it was, like that this was gonna happen, or that this was gonna lead to that, or at the time I didn't see the extent of blah blah blah. So like, it was just so interesting, and I really enjoyed the storytelling and the way that the story was told. Cleopatra was like this really strong woman, and there are so many misconceptions about her, and you know, she's labeled as all these different things, but she was a mother and she sacrificed a lot, and she was a woman and she was in love and was loved, and it was really, really good. And I would highly recommend this book. Again, it is historical fiction, so it might take you a little bit to get through it if you're not used to reading historical fiction, but that's why I would highly recommend the audiobook, because it really keeps you locked in. Next, I finally read Loved by the Gargoyle by Alira Anaya Ceres. This is book 2 in her monster series. It's the Gargoyles of the Underworld, and I love Jade Hernandez. Jade Hernandez also writes under Alira Anaya Ceres when it comes to her like fantasy and monster books. And this one is the second book, like I said. So her first book is about a gargoyle who lives in the underworld, and he basically wants a wife, and he kidnaps this girl, takes her back to the underworld, and learns the hard way that that's not how he should do it. And so now with book 2, he knows, based on what his brother told him, like, listen, kidnapping is probably not the way to go. Like, it did end up working out with me later on, that we, you know, she fell in love with me and everything worked out, but you might want to take a different approach. And so what his brother does in book number 2 is that he actually becomes pen pals with the woman that he wants as his bride. And they are writing back and forth. She doesn't know what he looks like. She doesn't know who he is. He obviously sees her, wants her, but is also worried that he's going to scare her, because again, he is a gargoyle. He's a little bit more human looking, but he's still supernatural. Like, you can tell he's a monster, right? And so it's interesting, and it's like beautiful, this pen pal romance that they have. And there's like a little bit of problems that happen here and there in the book, but it is a really short book, so I don't want to give you any more information other than that. But it was a really cute romance. These are some very dedicated men. They just want to keep their women happy, and I wouldn't complain, you know? Moving on to the third book that I read in the month of April, that was Solid by B. Love. This is a friends to lovers romance. It's a very, very short book, and unfortunately just didn't really work out for me. I think in part, yes, I'm sure everything that was going on with me mentally didn't help, but this was also a friends to lovers romance. It's not my favorite trope, but I've seen it work thousands of times. And this time it just didn't really hit for me. I couldn't really understand why they loved each other. And I feel like when it is a romance, that has to be clear of why they fall in love with each other. They don't have to be perfect people. They can each have faults. If anything, I prefer when both of them have faults and things that they have to work through and everything. But it didn't really make sense. And so like the book ended, and yeah, they were together, but I was like, I still don't really get why. Like, that just didn't make sense. And I do think in part is because it is such a short book that it doesn't give you that chance to really develop a lot of backstory, even if they are friends, to really show you like them being friends. Like, there was already that level of attraction when the book started, and so I kind of was like, then how come you guys haven't been together this whole time? And that's already a problem. Like, if I'm already thinking like, okay, then why are you not together? I don't like that. There was a reason why they weren't, but I felt like the reason, it wasn't even a bad thing because it was solved so easily. So then I was like, then why are we all wasting our time? Next, we have one of my first book club picks, and this was My Husband's Wife by Alice Feeney. This is a thriller book, and I had seen this book everywhere, so many people talking about it. And it is very interesting. If you haven't heard of this book, you have this woman who, she's basically getting ready for this big gallery presentation. She's an artist, and the day of her like presentation and like her open, what do they call it? Like, it's not open house, but it's when they're basically having like the gallery open and people can come around and like observe and like see your art. She goes out for a run, and when she comes back, her key's not working, and she's kind of like, what the heck is going on? So she keeps trying her key, and it's just not going into the lock. And then a woman opens the door, and this woman looks just like her, but slightly different. And she's like, what the heck is going on? She says like her name, which is like, for example, for me, it's like if I got home and I was like, you look just like, what? And then she's like, I'm Myra. It's like, no, I'm Myra. It's like, no, I'm Myra. No, I'm Myra. So something like that happens. And then her husband comes to the door, and she's like, surely my husband's gonna be like you know, recognized me, and he's like, can we help you? And she's like, what the hell is going on? And so that's all I'm gonna say. That's pretty much what everybody knows about this book, but it is like a mystery thriller book. It's not super heavy on the thriller. I would definitely say that it's heavier on the mystery side of it, because you don't really have a lot of answers. You have a lot of guesses, and you think that something's going on, but it's not. And it was a solid like 3.5 star read for me. I have yet to find a really good thriller, at least like recently. I haven't really read a really good one. So if you do have any recommendations, please let me know so I can pick it up eventually. And then I had my book club pick for my Latina book club. In this book club, we prioritize and we actually only pick Latina authors, which I love because it's introduced me to so many different authors and so many different types of books in the time that I've been in this book club. And it just so happened that for April, it was my pick, and I wanted something light, something that had been on my TBR already that I could finally check off the box. And let me tell you, not to toot my own horn, but everybody freaking loved this book, and that was Strikeout by Millie Perez. This is a baseball sports romance. You have a professional athlete who is a single dad, and he's in need of a babysitter, and he's very protective of his daughter, as he should be. And so he's very selective about who is going to come and be basically his live-in nanny. And because he's in need of a nanny and he's kind of trying to figure out who it might be, his mom is like, why not my best friend's daughter? And he's hesitant about it because she did previously go with him and his daughter on a trip to help him watch his daughter while he was doing meetings and stuff like that. And his daughter loves her, but he also knows that he is slightly attracted to her, and he's like, that could be a problem. I don't need distractions. I don't want to bring a woman into our life. Like, this is like, my daughter is my priority, which very high respect for that. But he also can't help but feel like, well, at least this is someone that we know. Like, this is someone that we've known for years because both of our moms are best friends. And so why not test her out and see how things work out? And let me tell you, this book had me like laughing. It had me giddy. And I did already pick up book number 2. And I did read it already in the beginning of May. So that wrap up will come in later. But I cannot wait for book number 3. Book number 3 is already available. Book 1 is Strikeout. Book 2 is Fair Trade. Like I said, I'll talk about it later because I technically just read it last week. And then the third book is Home Runner. And that book is already out, but the audiobook is actually coming out on the 19th. So I want to pick up the audiobook. I just think that the audiobook is probably gonna be incredible. I did do the ebook for this one, but I did the audio for Fair Trade and I really enjoyed it. So I kind of want to test out the audio and see how I feel about it first before deciding if I should keep with the audiobook or just pick up the ebook and get through it that way. But highly recommend it. I would say even if you are not big into sports romance, this is definitely a book that I think that you would really enjoy. And last but not least, this is the book that I had been looking forward to for the whole year. This was on my anticipated books for 2026. It finally came out in April, and I think I finished it in 3 days. Pretty sure it was 3 days. And that was Rights of Starling by Devney Perry. I loved this book. Shield of Sparrows, I loved it. I still think that one, I don't know which one I like more, to be honest. Like, I actually have Shield of Sparrows right there, but I did enjoy Shield of Sparrows, but this one you get so much more background. There is, and I don't really want to jump into this one too much, so let me just kind of tell you what Shield of Sparrows is about. Shield of Sparrows, you have a kingdom that obviously, to ally with another kingdom, the easiest way to do that is to have people from each kingdom marry each other. People in power, of course. And so the prince from this other kingdom comes to this other kingdom to meet his bride, except that when he's there, he's like, I actually don't want to marry her. I want to marry her sister. And everyone is kind of like, wait, what? Like, no, this is who you've been, like, you know, you're supposed to marry May. You can't just marry her, you know, her sister now. And he's like, well, too bad, so sad. Like, that's who I want to marry. It's either her or I'm not going to marry anybody. And he's smart, okay? It's a very smart, like, reasoning of why he chose that sister. But they end up going to their kingdom, and so the princess now has to kind of get intel. It turns out that her dad had this ulterior motive for wanting his sister, or her sister May, to marry into the family, and that's because May has been trained to basically be a spy at this kingdom to try to then possibly infiltrate this kingdom or steal their resources when it comes to the Crux migration and stuff like that. And Crux are like these big monsters that cause destruction, cause death, and you do find out all about that in the first book. So this is the second book, and it is a continuation of the first one. It picks up right after the second book and, or not the second one, it picks up right after the first book ends. It was so good. It was really emotional. I think in this one too, you get a lot of answers and you get a lot of background also. You get a ton of information that you didn't know, or that maybe you theorized about but you weren't 100% right. And I just really enjoyed it. The one thing I will say is definitely have tissues. Yeah, it like tugged at my heartstrings, but it was such a good book. And then the third book comes out pretty soon. I did see that Devney Perry announced not that long ago. Oh, well, I guess not pretty soon. It comes out March of 2027, but that's going to complete the trilogy, and I can't wait to see what happens. I'm also kind of scared because the way that this book ended, you're a little bit worried. Like, you're a little bit worried about what the heck is going to happen in the third book. So if you have not picked up Shield of Sparrows, definitely pick it up. And then you're going to immediately want to jump into this one. And then you can suffer with me until book 3 comes out. So yeah, those were all of the books that I read in the month of April. Let me know what books you read this month. If there's any books that you would recommend for me to pick up now that I'm finally in a better mental space. But thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.